Thank you, Chairperson. Thank you, and Minister. The advent of democracy gave women, children and people with disabilities the hope that finally their situation as individuals would be improved. The department was meant to vigorously implement several acts, but instead it spent money and time on gatherings and speech making. The sad reality is that the department has failed our women, children and people living with disabilities. Though, Honourable Minister, I have to say to you, I am throwing my speech one side because there is more urgent matters that also needs to be heard, and hopefully the Ministry can now and the Department can take this forward. The Department was tasked with promoting a society free of violence and abuse against women, children and people living with disabilities. If anything, the situation in respect of the above has deteriorated. Today, in our midst here, we've got a young mother with children who works at this institution that is the victim of continuous abuse and harassment. And this is a plea from her. Abusers such as rejected stalkers who have cases pending at court for stalking and harassment and the contravention of protection orders and who have been identified to have pre-existing psychiatric illnesses need to be sent by the courts for evaluation and assessment to identify the psychopathic deviances. According to a chief prosecutor at the Goodwood Court, Honourable Minister, magistrates view stalking and harassment as petty crime, and the sentencing often doesn't match the crime. The NPA is failing our women here. Abusers are given suspended sentences without any management of their actions thereafter. Minister, there can be a plea that those convicted of stalking and harassment who have been diagnosed as psychopathic should be forced to wear a GPS-enabled device so that they can be monitored and prevented from continuing the harassment and the stalking. We have seen how many women have lost their lives. It starts with the innocent harassment, but at the end of the day, they are murdered. And that is what the media talks about, when it is too late. A special police unit and a specialised court should be formed for domestic violence, stalking and harassment cases. Many are not equipped to understand the impact that stalking and harassment has on the victims, who are often left to manage their own situation due to the fact that it gets regarded as petty crime. Victims are in constant fear of what their stalker might do next, because no control measures have been put in place during sentencing. We've got here an example of the same case with video recordings in public, where every time he walks out of a court with a 500 Rand fine. We cannot continue having that. When the day she lost her life or the kids lost their lives, that is when it's going to be too late. The media portrays these stories of those who were stalked and were murdered, but not those of the survivors or those that are going through it every single day. There's a plea here for sufficient government-funded houses of safety. It will also ensure that those victims who are in this trap are able to get out and start a life, and not run around hiding with their children and uprooting their children all the time to run away from the harassment. Minister, we also need stricter maintenance implementation of the laws, not only to those young children, but also to wives that were loyal, and if I can use the horrible word, that were eventually traded in when they reach the age of 55, 60, 70, and they have given their whole life. We also need to have stricter control on that. We need to know less of report submissions, theories and projections. I thank you.
Your time has expired.
Thank you.
Honourable MP Chwewu.